Hello guys, how are you today? So today I'll be explaining the mechanics AMS quiz of term 1 week 3. Now I am a bit sick, so please bear with me if my voice goes or if it's a bit too low. I do apologize, but in all cases, let us start. What does it say? It says consider the following two position vectors. A, what does A have? It has a magnitude of 12 kilometers and a direction is 60 degrees south. How do you do that? First of all, you draw north, east, south, west. Never eat shredded wheat, or someone told me never eat sour worms. Now, east, 60 degrees west. You start from east, you draw a line in between east and, sorry, I said west, I meant to say south. You draw a line in between east and south, and you see what is the letter that comes directly before the angle. In this case, it is E. That means it's E, then directly after the angle 60 degrees and then south. So theta in this case is what? We know that theta, it is what? It is the direction with the positive x-axis, right? So first of all, if it goes clockwise, it's gonna be negative. If it goes counterclockwise, it's gonna be positive. So in this case, 60 is going clockwise. That means if you were to write it as theta, you are supposed to give it a minus sign, okay? So because it's going clockwise, okay, you have to give it a minus sign. So you could write it as minus 60, or theta is also equal to this, which is what? Which is 300. And because it's going counterclockwise, we will give it a plus sign, plus 300. That means for A, theta is either what? It's either minus 60 or 300, okay? Now let me just erase this. So now we have what? We have the magnitude of A and the theta of A. We'll move on to B. What did they say about B? They said that B has a magnitude of 20 kilometers and a bearing of 300 degrees. So let's draw. Never eat shredded wheat. A bearing of 300 degrees. That means 90, 90, 90. That's 270 already. What's left is 30 degrees over here. So again, we're looking for what? We're looking for theta. What is theta? Theta is the angle made with the positive x-axis. So you could either go clockwise and take it as 90 plus 90 plus 30. That's 180 plus 30, which is what? 210. But because it's going, let me just double check, 180 plus 30, 210. But because it's going clockwise, we will need to give it negative. Or what? Or you could do like this, which is 90 plus 60 degrees. 90 plus 60 degrees is 150 degrees. And because it's going anti-clockwise or counterclockwise, you will give it a positive sign. So plus 150 degrees. So now we have what? We have the value of theta, which is what? Which is minus 210 degrees or 150 degrees. So let's erase this. Now, perfect. What did they ask us? Is this the question? No. They told us that I and j are unit vectors that represent east and north. They want the vector sum of a plus b. Whenever they say vector, you directly have to change it into what? Into Cartesian. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to change a and b into Cartesian. How do we change a and b into Cartesian? Very simply by a method. What's this method? Very simply, it's gonna be what? It's gonna be, for example, vector v is equal to magnitude r times cosine theta I plus magnitude r times sine theta j, right? So if we follow this equation, we'll be able to find the value of vector a and vector b. First of all, vector a, it's gonna be 12 cosine, let's say minus 60i plus 12 sine minus 60j, okay? Then for b, it's gonna be what? It's gonna be 20 cosine 150, okay? I plus 20 sine 150 j. Perfect. Now all we need to do is to substitute them in the calculator. If you substitute 12 cosine minus 60, you will get an answer of 6. Plus, if you substitute 12 sine minus 60, so again, if you substitute 12 sine minus 60, you're gonna get an answer which is minus 6 radical 3. Now if we substitute 20 cosine 150, we will get an answer which is minus 10 radical 3. And if we substitute 10 sine 150, you will get an answer of what? You will get an answer of 10. Now, this is 6i plus minus 6 radical 3j minus 10 radical 3i plus 10j. Now, what do they need? They need the vector sum of a plus b. So what will we do in this case? We will add a and b. You can add the I with the I and the j with the j. So what will you get? You will get 6i minus 10 radical 3i. You can remove the I directly, okay? And you can write it as 6 minus 10 radical 3i plus what? Plus minus 6 radical 3j plus 10j. So you can change it into what? You can change it into 10 minus 6 radical 3j. So what are the final answers? The final answers are very simply 6 minus 10 radical 3i and 10 minus 6 radical 3j. Let's move on to question number 2. What does it say in question number 2? Drag and drop the correct terms below to express each of the following using what? Using Mariner's compass. So here they didn't specify what these angles are, so I'm just gonna assume that they are bearings, okay? So never eat shredded wheat. Let's start with the 60 degrees. If it's a bearing of 60 degrees, that means it's gonna look something like this. And then what's the second angle? It's 300 degrees. So if it's a bearing of 300 degrees, it's gonna be 90 and 90 and 90, that's 270, and then 30 degrees over here, okay? So this is all how much? This is all 300 degrees. Now what are they asking us? They're asking us for the Mariner's compass angle, okay? For the first one, which is this over here, you can either write it as north 60 degrees east, or if you went this way, you could write it as east 30 degrees north. Now, for the second one, which is this one over here, you can either write it as west 30 degrees north, or if you did it the other way, you could write it how? You could write it as north 60 degrees west, okay? So in this case, what are the two options we have? We have east 30 degrees north and west 30 degrees north. So this is west 30 degrees north and east 30 degrees north. Okay, that is it for question number 2. Let's move on to question number 3. Given A, so given A, which is minus 3 centimeter, 4 centimeter, I always prefer to transfer it into Cartesian. So minus 3i, okay, let me fix my I, plus 4j, okay? And then B, what is B? B is 5 centimeter, 0 centimeter. I always like to change it into Cartesian, so 5i plus 0j. There's no need to put j because it's 0j, okay? And then they gave us AC, which is 3i plus 4j. They told us that V is 3 times AC minus 2 times BA. Very simply, in order to find the vector BA, the only thing we need to do is what is A minus B. So, what's A in this case? A in this case is minus 3i plus 4j. And we're going to subtract it from B. What's B in this case? B is 5i, so minus 5i. What will we get? We will get minus 8i plus 4j. So what is this? This is the vector BA, okay? Perfect. Now we have the value of what? We have the value of the vector BA. It is what? It is minus 8i plus 4j. So now that we have the value of BA, the only thing we need to do is to substitute. So in this case, we need 3AC. So 3 times AC. What's AC? AC is 3i plus 4j, right? Minus 2 times BA. What's BA in this case? BA is 8 minus 8i plus 4j. Now the only thing we need to do is expand. After expanding, we get 9i plus 12j plus 16, because minus 2 times minus 8 is plus 16i minus 8j. Now you need to add I with I and j with j. You will get 25i plus 4j. So this is what? This is the final answer for part A. It is 25i plus 4j. This one, the answer for this one was 25i plus 4j. Now, if the tail of V is located at minus 1 centimeter, 2 centimeter, okay, then where is the head? we know when we are drawing this, its original point is where is at the origin. So if the tail is moved by -1 plus 2, then you will also need to move this by -1 plus 2. So it's gonna be 25 minus 1, which is 24i, and then 4 plus 2, which is 6j, or you could write it as 24, 6. So now let's move on to question number 4. What does it say in question number 4? The initial velocity of a bullet is given by 9i plus 3j. The unit vector in the direction of v to 2 decimal places. When they say the unit vector, it's very simply x over the magnitude r, I, plus y over the magnitude r, j. So in this case, this is our x and this is our y, right? So let us find the magnitude together, okay? So let us find the magnitude r together. It's radical 9 squared plus 3 squared. If you put it on the calculator, you are supposed to get an answer of 3 radical 10. Now, what do? We're gonna take x and put it over the magnitude, and then I, plus y, 3 over the magnitude, and then j. So now we put this on the calculator. What will we get as an answer? This will be 0.95i, okay? And this over here will be what? This over here will be 0.32j. So what are the answers? The answers are 0.95i plus 0.32j. Let's now move on to question number 5. What does it say? What polar coordinate pairs corresponds to the position vector -4, -3? First of all, change it into Cartesian. That's going to be -4i minus 3j. Okay? Now, in order for us to find the polar coordinates, we need two things. We need, first of all, the magnitude, and then what? We need the theta. Okay, so how do we find the magnitude r? Very simply, r is equal to radical -4 squared plus -3 squared, so we'll get an answer of 5. Whereas for theta in this case is what? Is tan inverse y, which is -3, over x, which is what? Which is -4. But since x is negative, we need to add 108. So now we need to put this on the calculator. Shift tan, or tan inverse, -3 over -4 plus 180, we will get an answer which is approximately 217 degrees. So what are the polar coordinates? The polar coordinates are, the magnitude is 5 and the theta is 217. So it's this one. Let's move on to question number 6. Now, the position vector of A has a magnitude of 5 kilometers. So this is what? R is equal to 5 kilometers. And now we need what? We need to find theta, because they give us what? The polar coordinate. So now we need to plot this. We have north, east, south, and west, right? So now what do we draw? We draw the angle. It's north, 30 degrees west. So north, then directly after it 30 degrees, and then west. So if 30 degrees is the angle between north and west, how much is theta? We know theta is the angle made with the positive x-axis. So in this case, it's gonna be what? It's gonna be 90 plus 30, which is what? Which is 120 degrees. Now that we have the magnitude and theta, we'll be able to find what? We'll be able to find the Cartesian coordinates, which are I and j. How do we find it? R cosine theta I plus R sine theta j. So in this case, it's going to be 5 cosine 120 I plus 5 sine 120 j. Put it on the calculator and you're supposed to get an answer which is minus 2.5 I, and then plus 4.3 j. Okay, so the final answer is minus 2.5 I plus 4.3 j. Let's move on to question number 7. Now, question number 7. Consider two vectors v and u, such that vai plus 7.2j and u 5.4 plus bj. Let r equals u plus v. So what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to add both of these. U plus v is equal to r, which is equal to ai plus 7.2j. Plus, by the way, there was a question in the exam. You only put the vector above the letter, not above the number, okay? Plus 5.4i plus bj. Now this is also equal to what? It's also equal to minus 5i plus 2.4j. Now, what do we do in this scenario? We take all of the i's by themselves, ai, 5.4i minus 5i, and we make an equation. So ai is equal to, ai plus 5.4i is equal to minus 5i. Move this to the other side. ai is equal to minus 10.4i, and you can cancel I, and you'll be left with what? A is equal to minus 10.4. Now, what's left is the j, so 7.2j plus bj is 2.4j. Move this to the other side, you will get that bj is equal to minus 4.8j, and then you can cancel j here, and you will get that b is minus 4.8. So the final answers in this case is minus 10.8, was it? Let me check. Minus 10.4, my bad. Here, minus 10.4 and minus 4.8. Let's move on to question number 8. A paper boat is moving in the stream of a rivulet along the x-axis as shown in the figures below at time equals 0 seconds. The paper boat was at the origin, 0. At t1, the boat reaches point A, and at t2, the boat reaches B. So let us say it goes from O to A to B. From O, it was at time 0. From A, it was at time 1. And from B, it was at time 2. Now, what is the displacement of the paper boat during the interval 0, 0 time 2? So, first of all, displacement is what? Is x final minus x initial. Now, of course, with respect to what? With respect to the time interval. So, when they say 0 time 2, that means x final is b, okay? And x initial is what? X initial is o. So, x final minus x initial. What did we also know? We know that if you wrote OB, it's equal to what? It's equal to B minus O, right? So what is the displacement of the paper boat? It's what? It's either x final minus x initial, of course in this time interval, or it's B minus O, or it's OB. Why? Because OB is B minus O. Why? Because you do final minus initial, right? So the answer over here is OB. Now, what is the displacement of the paper boat during the time interval t1, t2? So again, O to A to B, time 1, time 2, this is time 0, time 1, time 2. Time 0, time 1, time 2. Now, what's the displacement during the time interval time 1, time 2? Displacement again is what? Is x final minus x initial. X final in this case, because it's time 1, time 2, is B, minus x initial, which in this case is A. B minus A can also be written as AB. So, very simply, what's the answer of this one? The answer is AB. So that is it for question number 8. Let's move on to question number 9. A shuttle moved from O to E, okay, and then back to B through what? Through different stations in between, okay? All of them are separated by 5 kilometers from each other as shown in the figure. Once the shuttle reaches station B, okay, they want what? The total displacement. How do we find the total displacement? Again, it's x final minus x initial. So in this case, where is x final? Where is the place where the bus stopped changing position? Or where is the last position of the bus? It's here. And where is x initial? Where is the starting point of the bus? It is here. So what is the displacement? It's x final minus x initial. So where is x final in this position, or like in this place? It is B. And where is x initial? It is O. And what is the displacement in between B and O? It is how much? It is 5 kilometers plus 5 kilometers, which is what? Which is 10 kilometers. So the total displacement of the shuttle is 10 kilometers. While the total length of path of the shuttle, when they say total length, they mean in this case the distance. Now, what is the distance covered by the shuttle? In this case, the shuttle starts from O, then it goes to A, that's 5 kilometers, plus another 5 kilometers, that's 10, plus another 5, and another 5, and another 5. Now, how many did come here? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So in total, from left to right, it moved 25 kilometers. Now, When we are counting backwards, we don't take a sign. Why? Because distance does not have a sign. What's the difference between displacement and distance? Displacement is the change in position, whereas distance is the total length of a path. Displacement can be positive or negative, meaning it's vector, whereas distance is scalar, meaning it's only positive. So 25 kilometer, already we covered it. Then it goes back 1, 2, 3. So that's how much? That's 15 kilometers. Now you add them, 25 plus 15, and you will get in total how many? 40 kilometers. So again, displacement is x final minus x initial, whereas distance is the total length of the path covered. So this is how much? 10 kilometers, and this is 40 kilometers. Let's move on to the next question. Again, average velocity is a what? Velocity is what? Is displacement delta x over time. Now, delta x can be positive or negative. When it's positive or negative, this indicates it has a direction. And when it has a direction, we say that this is what? This is a vector quantity. Now, average speed. Average speed is distance over time. My bad. Distance over time. Distance can only be positive. So if distance can only be positive, that means speed can only be positive. It can never be negative. So that means it is what? It is a scalar quantity because it does not have a direction. It only has a magnitude. Now, a particle P moves along a directed straight line. Okay? At time 1, I always prefer to graph. At time 1, let's say this is time 1 over here, which is 3 seconds. Okay? The particle is at which position? It's at this position over here, which is 8 meters. So we can say that this is the point. Okay, so this is the first point. Now, where's the second point? At time 2, 8 seconds. Let's say this is time 2, 8 seconds. It goes to where? It goes to negative 2 meters. So let's say this is what? This is minus 2 meters. Then, at the final time, which is 12 seconds, the particle then goes back to what? To 2 meters. So this is what it looks like. Let us connect the dots, connect the points. This is what our graph looks like. Okay, now the average speed of P. What is the average speed? First of all, we know average speed is equal to the distance over the time. So what is the total distance covered? It is what? The movement of all the particles, or the length of the path covered by the particles. In this case, it moves from 8 meters to minus 2 meters. What's the distance here? This is 10 meters. Plus, then it moves from minus 2 to 2. This is what? This is 4 meters. So what's the total distance covered? The total distance covered in this case is 10 plus 4, which is 14. Over the total time, it's at 12 seconds, but it started at 3 seconds. So 12 minus 3, what's the total time here? This is 9 seconds. So 14 over 9 seconds, 14 meters over 9 seconds. This will give us what? This will give us approximately 1.56 meters per second, which if you round it is 2 meters per second. So this one is 2 meters per second. Now, the average velocity. How do we find the average velocity? Average velocity is displacement over time. That means it's what? It's delta x, or x final minus x initial, over what? Over the time. Let me just clear this a bit. Here we go. So x final in this case is 2 meters minus x initial, which in this case is 8 meters. So 2 minus 8 over what? Over 12 minus 3, because 12 minus 3. And then what will you get? 2 minus 8 is minus 6 over 12 minus 3, which is 9. We will get an answer which is what? Which is approximately minus 0.67, which if you round it is almost minus 1. So over here, the answer is minus 1. So this is 2 meters per second, and this is minus 1 meters per second. Let's now move on to question 12, okay? A cyclist is traveling down a straight line, OAB, and then back to A. Coordinates of the 3 points being 0, 20, 100 as shown below. Now, what is the displacement if he moves OA? If he moves OA, then the displacement is very simply final, like x final minus x initial, which is 20 minus 0. What's 20 minus 0? That is 20. Now, the distance is the length of the path covered. In this case, the length of the path covered is also 20. So this is 20, 20. Now, BA is like this. We're going back. The displacement is x final minus x initial, so 20 minus 100. What is that? That is minus 80. whereas the distance is the length of the path. What's the length of this path? This is 80 meters. Remember, distance can never be negative. It always has to be positive. So 80 meters minus 80 is the displacement. Now, OA, AB, BA. What, first of all, is the displacement? Displacement is x final minus x initial. So 20 minus 0, that is 20. This is our displacement. Whereas the distance, which is the length of the path covered, it is what? It is 20 plus 80 plus 80 again. Because why? 20 and then 80 and then 80 again. So 20 plus 80 plus 80, this is how much? This is 180. Okay, so 20 and 180. Let's move on now to question number 13. Now, a force F, 3I minus 6J, acts on an object moving on a horizontal surface. What's the magnitude of F? How do we find the magnitude R? It's radical x squared plus y squared. So put it on the calculator. And what will you get as an answer? You will get as an answer 3 radical 5. So you have to round it and you will approximately get 6.7 newtons. 6.7 newtons. 6.7. Okay. Question number 14. An object is acted upon by two forces, F1 and F2. Whenever they ask for the resultant, it's different. For example, if you have force A and B, but then they ask you for BA, what are you supposed to do? A minus B. But in this case, they ask you for the resultant. When they ask for the resultant, you are supposed to add. So F1 plus F2, in this case, minus 2I plus J, plus 2I minus 10J. So this and this will cancel. You'll be left with J minus 10J. That's going to be minus 9J. So what is the value of I? The value of I is 0 because we cancelled, or minus 2 plus 2 is 0. And then what's the value of J? The value of J is minus 9. So 0 minus 9. Now what's the magnitude of N in this resultant? To find the magnitude, you should do radical 0 squared plus minus 9 squared. In all cases, you will get 9. Now, let's move on to question number 15. What does it say? I and J are unit vectors of the point due east and north respectively in a coordinate system. Points A and B are in the same coordinate system. First of all, change them to Cartesian. 3I plus 5J minus 2I plus 7J. They want us to write what? 3AB. First of all, in order to find 3AB, we need to find AB. AB in this case is B minus A, so it's minus 2I plus 7J minus 3I plus 5J. Please pay attention to the brackets, very important. Minus 2I plus 7J minus 3I minus 5J. So you will get then what? You will get minus 5I plus 2J. Now this is the value of AB. The only thing you need to do now is multiply it by 3. So what's the answer now? The answer is going to be minus 15I plus 6J. So minus 15I plus 6J is our answer. Let's move on to question number 16. What did they give us? They gave us R, the magnitude, and theta, the angle. They want us to find AI plus BJ. They want us to find it in Cartesian form. Very simply, what's the equation? R cosine theta I plus R sine theta J. Okay? So R in this case is 4 times cosine theta, in this case, which is what? Which is 30. Plus, oh, don't forget the I, plus 4 times sine theta, which in this case is 30J. Put it on the calculator, you're supposed to get approximately 3.5I plus 2J. But they wanted to what? The two significant figures, so you have to write the 2.0J. So 3.5I, 2.0J. Move on to question number 17. This is a very important question. Vector OA is shown in the diagram below. They want us to find the angle OA makes with the positive x-axis, meaning theta. How do we find this? First of all, let us find the x and y, or the I and j of what? Of OA. In this case, I is x and j is y. So, what is the x in this case? The x is 1, 2, 3, and 4. But because it's going to the left side, it's going to be negative. Now, what about the j? It's 1, 2, 3. But because it's going down, it's going to be negative. So it's minus 4i minus 3j. Now, how do we find theta? Usually, you do tan inverse y over x. So tan inverse minus 3 over minus 4. But because the x is negative, okay, because the x is negative, we'll need to add 180. So put it on the calculator. And to the nearest degree, you're supposed to get 217 degrees. Now, this is the angle made with the positive x-axis. So all of this is 217 degrees. This is 90, this is 90. That means what is left for this? There is 37 degrees left for this. Now, the bearing of OA. If this is 90 and this is 90 and this is 37 degrees and they want the bearing, first of all, what is the definition of bearing? Bearing is the angle starting from the North Pole turning clockwise. So from the North Pole, you turn clockwise. How much is this now? This is 90 plus this angle over here. What's this angle over here? It's 53 degrees. How did I know? I did 90 minus 37 and I got 53 degrees. So 90 plus 53, I will get an answer which is 233 degrees. Let's move on to part C. 2 possible ways to describe OA using Mariner's compass to the nearest degree. Okay, again, we have what? We have that this was 37 degrees and this was 53 degrees. They want us to use Mariner's compass to write the angle. So you can either write it as this west, then what's the angle directly after west? 37 degrees south, okay? Or you could, directly write it from south. And what's the angle directly after south? 53. So south 53 degrees west. So this is 37. And this is 53. Now the last and final question we have is question number 18. They want us to find what, given that u, 2i minus 6j, determine the unit vector v that points in the opposite direction to you. First thing we need to do is to find the unit vector v. How do we find unit vector? It's xi plus yj over what? Over the magnitude. So in this case, it's 2i minus 6j over the magnitude. What's the magnitude? It's radical 2 squared plus minus 6 squared. So that's going to be 2 radical 10. Of course, you can separate them into 2 denominators. So 2 radical 10. 2 radical 10. Cancel this and this. You will have 1i over radical 10. Cancel this and this. You will have 3j over radical 10. Now, they need it in the opposite direction. So you will multiply it by minus. So what's the answer now? Minus this plus 3 this. Okay? So minus 1i over radical 10 plus 3j over radical 10. So what's the final answer? Minus this plus this. Let's submit and hopefully we don't have any mistakes. And perfect. Thank God we don't have any mistakes. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful day.